The vastness of space held many wonders, but none as grand as the Galactic Council. For centuries, this body ruled over countless star systems, bringing order to the chaos of the cosmos. Their gleaming ships and advanced technology were the envy of all. The Council's word was law, and few dared to question their decisions. Earth had only recently joined this cosmic community. Humans, with their curiosity and drive, quickly made a name for themselves. They were the new kids on the block, eager to learn and contribute. Many alien races watched them with interest, wondering what these newcomers would bring to the galactic stage. But the peace was not to last. On a day that would forever change human history, the Galactic Council made a decision that shook the very foundations of their authority. They ordered the deaths of millions of human children. The news spread like wildfire across Earth and its colonies. Parents clutched their children close, unable to believe what they were hearing. Governments scrambled to understand, to negotiate, to beg for mercy. But the Council's decision was final. Their reasons were cold and alien. They spoke of population control, of preventing future wars, of maintaining the delicate balance of power. To them, it was a logical choice. To humanity, it was an unforgivable crime. The day of the culling, as it came to be known, was marked by screams and tears. Council ships appeared in the skies over Earth's major cities. Their weapons were silent and efficient. Children simply vanished, turned to ash in an instant. No discrimination was made. Rich or poor, all were equal in the eyes of the Council's cruel logic. Joanna Martinez, a teacher in New York, watched in horror as half her class disappeared before her eyes. They were just gone, she would later tell reporters, her voice shaking. One moment they were laughing, the next, empty desks and piles of ash. In the countryside of China, farmer Lai Wei fell to his knees as his son faded away in his arms. His anguished cries echoed across the empty fields, joined by millions of others around the world. The streets of every city on Earth filled with angry, grieving crowds. They demanded action, revenge, anything to fill the void left by their lost children. World leaders, many of them parents themselves, struggled to maintain order while dealing with their own grief. Admiral Helena Chen of the newly formed Earth Defense Fleet stared at the reports coming in, her face a mask of barely controlled rage. "They think they can do this to us," she muttered, clenching her fists. "They have no idea what they've awakened." In the days that followed, humanity changed. The shared trauma united them in a way nothing else could. Old enemies set aside their differences, focused on a new common foe. The pain of loss turned to a burning desire for vengeance. Dr. Emeka Okafor, a renowned psychologist, observed the shift in human behavior. "We're seeing a level of global unity unprecedented in human history," he noted, "but it's driven by grief and anger. The long-term psychological effects of this event will shape our species for generations to come." As the dust settled and the true scale of the loss became clear, humanity began to plan. They would not take this lying down. They would not be cattle to be culled at the whim of some far-off council. In secret laboratories and hidden bases, scientists and soldiers worked tirelessly. They studied alien technology, reverse-engineered captured weapons, and pushed the boundaries of human knowledge. If they were to stand a chance against the Council, they needed every advantage they could get. The Galactic Council, in their arrogance, had assumed humanity would fall in line after such a show of force. They couldn't have been more wrong. In trying to prevent a future threat, they had created their worst nightmare, a unified human race with nothing left to lose. As Earth's first warships took shape in orbital shipyards, a grim determination settled over humanity. They would have justice for their lost children, no matter the cost. The galaxy would soon learn that humans were not to be trifled with. The stage was set for a conflict that would reshape the very fabric of galactic society. Humanity, once the newcomers, were about to make their mark on the cosmos in a way no one could have predicted. The Galactic Council had sown the wind. They would soon reap the whirlwind. The Earth fell silent for 7 days after the culling. It was a silence heavy with grief, anger, and shock. But on the 8th day, that silence broke. It started as a whisper, then grew to a roar that shook the planet. In every city, town, and village, people poured onto the streets. They carried pictures of their lost children, their faces twisted with pain and fury. The crowds grew larger by the hour, their chants echoing off buildings and across empty playgrounds. "Justice for our children," they cried. "Make them pay." World leaders, still reeling from the tragedy, scrambled to respond. Emergency meetings were called. Armies were put on high alert. For the first time in human history, the entire planet was united in purpose. In Washington, D.C., President Sarah Chen addressed a sea of grieving, angry faces. Her own eyes were red-rimmed, her voice hoarse with emotion. "We will not bow to this tyranny," she declared. "Humanity will have its vengeance." The crowd roared its approval, a sound that was echoed in capitals across the globe. Behind closed doors, military leaders and scientists huddled together, planning their next move. General Marcus Rodriguez, his face grim, pointed to a holographic map of known Council territories. "We're outgunned and outmanned," he said. "But we have something they don't expect: the will to risk everything." Dr. Aisha Patel, head of Earth's top research facility, nodded in agreement. "We've been studying their tech since we joined the Galactic community," she said. "It's time to put that knowledge to use." In secret bases around the world, work began on new weapons and defenses. Scientists worked around the clock, fueled by coffee and the burning desire for payback. They pushed the boundaries of physics, unlocking secrets that had eluded humanity for centuries. Meanwhile, Earth's intelligence agencies sprang into action. Spies were sent to every corner of the galaxy, tasked with gathering any information that could help in the coming war. Agent Jack Harper found himself on a crowded space station at the edge of Council space. He sat in a dingy bar, his ears open for any useful chatter. The humans are done for. A tentacled alien slurred next to him. The Council never loses. Jack's hand tightened on his drink, but he kept his face neutral. "We'll see about that," he thought. Back on Earth, a new generation of soldiers began their training. These were not ordinary recruits. Many were parents who had lost children in the culling. Their eyes burned with a fierce determination as they pushed their bodies to the limit. Sarah Thompson, a former office worker turned soldier, gritted her teeth as she ran another punishing obstacle course. The face of her vanished daughter flashed in her mind, driving her forward. "I'm coming for you," she whispered to the uncaring stars. As the days turned to weeks, and weeks to months, Earth's preparations continued. The planet was transformed into a fortress, bristling with new defenses. In orbit, the first ships of humanity's new fleet took shape, their hulls gleaming in the sunlight. But it wasn't just military might that humanity was counting on. Diplomats were sent to every known alien race, seeking allies in the coming conflict. Many were hesitant, afraid of the Council's power. But some, those who had suffered under the Council's harsh rule, listened with interest. On the forest world of Arborea, Ambassador Michael Chang made his plea to the tree-like inhabitants. "They came for our children," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "If we don't stop them, who will they come for next?" The Arboreans rustled their leaves in their version of troubled murmuring. After a long silence, their leader stepped forward. "We stand with Earth," it announced in its creaking voice. It was a small victory, but an important one. Humanity would need every ally it could get in the coming storm. As Earth geared up for war, a change came over its people. The initial shock and grief hardened into steely resolve. Every person, from the highest leader to the youngest child, knew that the fate of their species hung in the balance. The Galactic Council had sought to cow humanity into submission. Instead, they had created an enemy unlike any they had faced before. A human race united in its thirst for justice, willing to risk everything in pursuit of vengeance. The stage was set. Humanity was ready. The galaxy held its breath, waiting for the first strike in a war that would change everything. The hum of activity never ceased on Earth. Day and night, the planet buzzed with preparation. Humanity had tasted the bitter sting of defeat, and now they readied themselves to strike back. In the vast shipyards orbiting Mars, massive warships took shape. These weren't the clunky experimental vessels of humanity's early space age. These were sleek predators, built for speed and power. Engineers worked tirelessly, their faces lit by the glow of welding torches and holographic displays. Chief Engineer Ravi Patel wiped sweat from his brow as he inspected the newest addition to Earth's fleet. "She's a beauty," he muttered, running his hand along the smooth hull. "The Council won't know what hit them. But ships alone wouldn't win this war." On the moon, hidden beneath the dusty surface, a new kind of weapon was being born. Scientists in clean suits moved carefully around a pulsing orb of energy, their faces a mix of awe and fear. Dr. Elena Rodriguez made a final adjustment to the containment field. "If this works," she said to her team, "we'll have the power to punch through any Council defense." Back on Earth, training grounds echoed with the sounds of combat. The new human army was unlike any that had come before. Soldiers learned not just to fight on the ground, but in zero gravity, in alien atmospheres, against enemies with abilities they could scarcely imagine. Sergeant John Chen barked orders at his squad as they maneuvered through a simulated alien city. "Move like you mean it," he shouted. "The enemy won't wait for you to catch your breath." In underground bunkers, strategists pored over star charts and intelligence reports. They planned for every contingency, every possible move the Council might make. General Maria Santos pointed to a holographic display of Council space. "We hit them here, here, and here," she said, her eyes gleaming with determination. Quick strikes to keep them off balance. But humanity knew they couldn't win this war alone. In the depths of space, Earth's diplomats continued their mission to find allies. Some races, impressed by humanity's rapid progress and burning determination, began to offer support. On the crystal world of Zrixia, Ambassador Sarah Lee shook hands, or what passed for hands, with the Zrixian High Chancellor. "Together," Sarah said, her voice firm, "we can bring down the Council's tyranny." The High Chancellor's crystalline form shimmered in agreement. "Your courage inspires us," it chimed. "Zrixia stands with Earth." As allies joined the cause, Earth's scientists worked to integrate alien technology with their own. In labs around the world, strange new devices came to life, melding the best of multiple civilizations into powerful new tools of war. Dr. Yuki Tanaka held up a small device, no bigger than a coin. "This," she said to the astonished military observers, "can disrupt Council communications across an entire star system." But even as humanity prepared for war, they didn't forget why they were fighting. In cities across the globe, memorials were built to honor the lost children. These weren't just places of mourning, but symbols of resolve. In Central Park, New York, a massive sculpture rose towards the sky. Millions of tiny lights, one for each lost child, swirled in a galaxy-shaped pattern. At its base, a simple inscription read, "We remember, we fight, we will prevail." As the day of reckoning drew near, a tense anticipation gripped the earth. In homes and factories, on farms and in offices, people went about their duties with grim determination. Everyone had a role to play in the coming conflict. Tom Jackson, a farmer in Iowa, looked up at the stars as he worked his fields. "Never thought I'd see the day," he said to his wife, "when growing food would be part of fighting a war." His wife, Lisa, nodded solemnly. "Every meal we produce feeds a soldier, a scientist, someone working to save us all." In orbit, the completed warships began to gather. Their hulls gleamed in the starlight, a testament to human ingenuity and resolve. Aboard the flagship, Admiral Helena Chen surveyed her fleet. Her eyes, once filled with helpless rage, now burned with purpose. "Send the signal," she ordered. "It's time." Across the galaxy, humanity's allies received the message and began to move. The pieces were in place. The stage was set, After months of preparation, humanity was ready to launch its first strike against the Galactic Council. The war to avenge Earth's children was about to begin. The silence of space was shattered as humanity's fleet dropped out of hyperspace. Sleek warships, their hulls gleaming with deadly purpose, appeared near the edge of Council space. This was it, the moment Earth had been preparing for. Admiral Helena Chen stood on the bridge of the flagship, her eyes fixed on the tactical display. "All ships, report in," she ordered, her voice steady despite the tension thrumming through her body. One by one, the captains of Earth's fleet confirmed their readiness. Among them was Captain Jamal Thompson, commanding the destroyer Vengeance. His hands gripped the armrests of his chair tightly. "This is for you, Sarah," he whispered, thinking of his lost daughter. The first target was a Council outpost on a small rocky moon. It was chosen for its strategic importance and relatively light defenses. As Earth's ships approached, alarms blared across the Council installation. The Council forces, caught off guard by the sudden appearance of the human fleet, scrambled to respond. Their complacency, born from centuries of unchallenged rule, would cost them dearly. "Fire at will." Admiral Chen's command echoed across the communication channels. In an instant, the darkness of space lit up with the fury of human vengeance. Earth's new weapons performed beyond expectations. Beams of energy, more powerful than anything the Council had seen before, sliced through their defenses like paper. Swarms of fighter craft, piloted by Earth's best, darted between larger ships, causing chaos and destruction. On the Council outpost, panic set in. Commander Zixnar, a veteran of many conflicts, found himself facing an enemy unlike any he had encountered before. "How is this possible?" he hissed, his tentacles writhing in agitation. "They're just humans." But these were not the same humans the Council had dismissed as weak. These were warriors forged in the fire of grief and anger, driven by a thirst for justice that transcended fear. The battle raged for hours. Slowly but surely, the Council's defenses crumbled. Captain Thompson's ship led a daring assault on the outpost's main generator. "Now we'll show them how it feels to be helpless," he growled as his ship dove towards the target. A blinding explosion marked the end of the Council outpost. Cheers erupted across the human fleet, but Admiral Chen remained focused. "This is just the beginning," she reminded her forces. "Prepare for their counterattack." She didn't have to wait long. Council reinforcements arrived, their ships larger and more numerous than the human fleet. The real test was about to begin. What followed was a battle that would be remembered for generations. Human ingenuity and desperation clashed against Council technology and numbers. Ships danced a deadly ballet in the void. Energy weapons crisscrossed space, and explosions bloomed like deadly flowers. On Earth, billions watched the battle unfold through long-range sensors. In homes and public squares, people huddled around screens, holding their breath with every near miss, cheering with every successful hit. Sarah Lee, now 10 years old, clutched her mother's hand as they watched. "Are we winning, Mom?" she asked, her eyes wide. Her mother, Lisa, nodded, tears in her eyes. "We're showing them we won't go down without a fight, sweetheart." As the battle raged on, both sides took heavy losses. Human ships, despite their advanced technology, were not invincible. The Council's numbers began to tell, pressing the Earth fleet back. But humanity had one more surprise in store. From the far side of the system, a fleet of ships appeared. Earth's alien allies had joined the fight. The tide of battle turned once more. Commander Zixnar, now in command of the Council forces, watched in disbelief as his tactical display filled with new enemy signatures. "Impossible," he muttered. "The humans have allies. How did we not know?" The combined fleet pressed their advantage. Council ships, caught between two forces, began to fall back. For the first time in centuries, the Galactic Council tasted defeat. As the last Council ship fled the system, a roar of triumph echoed across Earth's fleet. They had won their first major battle. The cost had been high. Many ships were lost. Many brave souls had perished. But they had proven that humanity was a force to be reckoned with. Admiral Chen allowed herself a small smile. "Well done, everyone," she broadcast to the fleet. "But remember, this is just the first step. The real war has only just begun." As the human fleet regrouped, tending to their wounded and repairing their ships, news of their victory spread across the galaxy. The myth of Council invincibility had been shattered. Hope began to bloom in the hearts of oppressed species everywhere. The Galactic Council had awakened a sleeping giant. Now they would face the consequences of their cruel actions. The war for justice had truly begun. As the war raged across the stars, a different kind of battle was being fought in the hearts and minds of humanity. The initial fury of vengeance began to cool, replaced by uncomfortable questions and moral uncertainties. In the war room on Earth, President Sarah Chen faced her advisors. The holographic display showed their latest victory, a council colony world in flames. But the president's face was troubled. "We've won another battle," she said slowly, "but at what cost? How many innocent lives were lost in that attack?" General Rodriguez shifted uncomfortably in his seat. "Madam President, this is war. There will always be collateral damage." Collateral damage. Dr. Aisha Patel, the chief scientist, spat the words out. "Is that what we're calling it now? We're supposed to be better than the Council, not sink to their level." The room erupted into heated debate. Some argued that any action was justified to avenge Earth's children. Others worried that they were losing their humanity in pursuit of revenge. Meanwhile, on the front lines, soldiers grappled with their own ethical dilemmas. Captain Maya Ortiz stood in the ruins of a council city, watching as her troops rounded up prisoners. Among them were clearly non-combatants, the equivalent of children and elderly in the alien species. A young soldier approached her, his face pale. "Captain, what do we do with them? They look scared." Maya felt a lump in her throat. She remembered the pain of losing her little brother in the culling. But looking at these alien civilians, she saw the same fear in their eyes that she had seen in human eyes so long ago. "We treat them with kindness," she said finally. "We're here to end tyranny, not become tyrants ourselves." Back on Earth, the debate had spilled out into the public sphere. Protests erupted in major cities, with people divided over the conduct of the war. In New York's Central Park, two groups faced off. One side carried signs reading "Remember our children" and "No mercy for the Council." The other held banners saying war crimes are still crimes and vengeance justice. Among the protesters was Tom Jackson, the farmer from Iowa. He held a picture of his granddaughter, lost in the culling. "I want justice as much as anyone," he told a reporter, "but not like this. We can't bring our children back by killing theirs." The ethical struggle reached even to Earth's allies. On the crystal world of Zrixia, Ambassador Sarah Lee faced tough questions from the High Chancellor. "We joined your cause because we believed in justice," the Chancellor chimed, its crystalline form shimmering with concern. "But some of your actions seem dangerously close to those of the Council you fight against." Sarah took a deep breath. "We're trying to do better," she said. It's not easy to find the right path." As the war progressed, an unexpected voice joined the debate. A member of the Galactic Council, diplomat Vexalia, reached out to Earth in secret. "Not all of us agreed with the culling," Vexalia's message said. "Some of us have been working in secret to change the Council from within. If you continue on this path of destruction, you'll leave us with nothing to save." This message sent shockwaves through Earth's leadership. Could there be a way to end this war without total annihilation? The debate raged on, from the highest levels of government to everyday citizens. Humanity found itself at a crossroads. They had begun this war to avenge their children, but now they faced the risk of losing the very things that made them human. In a powerful speech to the United Earth Congress, Dr. Emeka Okafor, the renowned psychologist, summed up the dilemma. "We started this war because the Council took our children. We wanted to show them the pain they caused us. But in doing so, we risk becoming the very monsters we set out to defeat. Our children would not want us to avenge them by betraying everything we taught them about kindness, mercy, and justice. His words struck a chord with many. Slowly, a new consensus began to form. The war would continue, but with a renewed focus on minimizing civilian casualties and seeking a just resolution rather than blind vengeance. As humanity grappled with these ethical dilemmas, they began to realize that the true battle was not just against the Galactic Council, but against the darkness within themselves. The path forward would not be easy, but it was necessary if they were to truly honor the memory of their lost children. The war had evolved. It was no longer just about vengeance. It had become a fight for the soul of humanity itself. The war had raged across the galaxy for years. Both sides were exhausted, their resources stretched thin. But now, at last, humanity and its allies were ready for the final push against the heart of the Galactic Council. Admiral Helena Chen stood on the bridge of her flagship, the Remembrance. Around her, the largest fleet ever assembled in the history of the galaxy prepared for battle. Ships from a dozen alien races floated alongside human vessels, a testament to the alliances forged in the crucible of war. "All ships, report in," Helena ordered, her voice steady despite the weight of the moment. As the captains confirmed their readiness, Helena's mind wandered to the long road that had led them here. The pain, the sacrifices, the hard choices, but also the growth, the unexpected friendships, and the rediscovery of humanity's better nature. "This is it," she said to her crew. "Whatever happens today, remember why we fight. Not just for vengeance, but for justice, for a better future." On the other side of the battlefield, the Galactic Council's forces prepared for the fight of their lives. Grand Admiral Zixnar, now the supreme commander of the Council's military, surveyed his own fleet with a mix of determination and fear. "We underestimated them once," he told his officers. "We will not make that mistake again. Fight with everything you have, for the future of the Council depends on it." As the two massive fleets faced each other, a tense silence fell across the battlefield. Then, with a flash of energy weapons and the roar of engines, the final battle began. The space between the fleets erupted into chaos. Energy beams crisscrossed the void, missiles streaked between ships, and fighters darted through the melee like angry insects. The culmination of years of technological development and tactical planning was put to the ultimate test. On Earth, billions watched the battle unfold through long-range sensors. In homes, schools, and public squares, people held their breath, hoping and praying for victory. Sarah Lee, now a teenager, stood with her parents in Times Square, her eyes fixed on the giant screens. "Come on," she whispered. "Finish this." Back on the battlefield, the tide of war ebbed and flowed. Both sides took heavy losses, but slowly, surely, the combined fleet of humanity and its allies began to gain the upper hand. Their ships, tempered by years of conflict and upgraded with technology from a dozen worlds, proved more than a match for the Council's forces. Captain Jamal Thompson, commanding the destroyer Vengeance, led a daring assault on the Council's flagship. "This is for Sarah," he said, his voice choked with emotion, as he ordered his ship into a desperate attack run. The Vengeance took heavy fire, but managed to land a critical hit on the Council flagship's main reactor. As Jamal's ship limped away, the Council vessel erupted into a massive explosion. Grand Admiral Zixnar, watching his flagship die, knew the battle was lost. But he had one final card to play. "Activate the Omega Protocol," he ordered, his voice grim. Across the Council fleet, ships began to power up strange devices. Energy readings spiked off the charts, setting off alarms on every sensor in the human fleet. Dr. Elena Rodriguez, monitoring the battle from a science vessel, gasped as she realized what was happening. "Admiral Chen," she shouted into the comm, "they're trying to trigger an artificial supernova. If they succeed, it'll wipe out everything in this system, including their own forces." Helena's mind raced. This was it, the moment that would decide not just the battle, but the fate of the galaxy. She had seconds to make a decision that would affect billions of lives. In that moment, she remembered the words of Dr. Emeka Okafor. Our children would not want us to avenge them by betraying everything we taught them about kindness, mercy, and justice. Helena took a deep breath and opened a channel to the entire fleet. All ships, this is Admiral Chen. Cease fire and fall back to minimum safe distance. Then, prepare to assist in evacuation of Council forces. A stunned silence fell over the fleet, quickly followed by a flurry of confused questions. But Helena stood firm. We came here for justice, not genocide, she said. We're better than that. Now move. As the combined fleet retreated, they sent out a broadcast to the Council ships, warning them of their leader's desperate plan and offering assistance. Many Council ships, realizing they'd been betrayed by their own leaders, accepted the offer. In a frantic race against time, human and allied ships worked alongside their former enemies to evacuate as many as possible before the Omega devices detonated. When the artificial supernova finally erupted, it consumed what was left of the Council fleet. But thanks to the unexpected cooperation between former foes, countless lives had been saved. As the blinding light of the explosion faded, a new dawn broke for the galaxy. The war was over, but the real work of building a just and peaceful future was just beginning. The galaxy held its breath as the light of the artificial supernova faded. The Great War was over, but its end had come in a way no one had expected. In the days that followed, news spread quickly across the stars. The Galactic Council had fallen, and a new era was dawning. On Earth, celebrations erupted in every city and town. People poured into the streets, laughing, crying, and hugging strangers. The joy of victory mixed with relief that the long conflict was finally over. In New York's Central Park, a massive crowd gathered around the memorial for the lost children. Sarah Lee, now a young woman, placed a flower at its base. "We did it," she whispered, tears in her eyes. "I hope you can rest now." But as the initial euphoria faded, the enormous task of rebuilding became clear. The war had left deep scars across the galaxy. Entire worlds lay in ruins. Countless lives had been lost, and the bonds of trust between species had been severely tested. In the halls of the newly formed Galactic Alliance, representatives from Earth and its allies met with former Council worlds. The atmosphere was tense, filled with a mix of hope and lingering mistrust. President Sarah Chen, her hair now streaked with gray, addressed the gathered delegates. "We have all suffered," she said, her voice firm but compassionate. "Now we must choose. Do we cling to the past, or do we work together to build a better future?" Her words struck a chord. Slowly, tentatively, former enemies began to talk, to share their stories, to find common ground. On the front lines, soldiers who had fought fiercely against each other now worked side by side in relief efforts. Captain Maya Ortiz found herself coordinating reconstruction on a former Council world. "It's strange," she said to a local alien leader as they surveyed the rebuilding efforts. "A few months ago, we were trying to kill each other. Now we're planting trees together." The alien, a tall, spindly creature named Zal, nodded its headstalks. "Perhaps this is the way it always should have been," it replied. Back on Earth, society grappled with its own changes. The war had transformed humanity, forcing them to confront hard truths about themselves and their place in the galaxy. Dr. Emeka Okafor, now elderly but still sharp, gave a powerful speech at the United Earth University. "We went to the stars seeking vengeance," he said to a packed auditorium. "Instead, we found our humanity. Let us never forget the lessons we've learned, both about the depths of cruelty we can sink to and the heights of compassion we can reach." In homes across the planet, families who had lost children in the culling faced a complex mix of emotions. The pain of loss remained, but for many, it was tempered by a sense that their loved ones' deaths had not been in vain. Tom Jackson, the Iowa farmer, sat on his porch with his wife, watching the stars. "I miss her every day," he said, thinking of his lost granddaughter. But I think she'd be proud of what we've become. As the years passed, the galaxy slowly healed. The Galactic Alliance, built on the principles of mutual respect and cooperation, grew stronger. Trade flowed between worlds, cultural exchanges flourished, and scientific collaboration led to breakthroughs that benefited all. On the 10th anniversary of the war's end, a grand ceremony was held in orbit around Earth. Ships from every member world of the Alliance gathered, their hulls gleaming in the starlight. Admiral Helena Chen, now retired, stood on the observation deck of the space station, watching the assembled fleet. Next to her was Vexalia, the Council diplomat who had reached out to humanity in secret during the war. "Did you ever imagine it would end like this?" Vexalia asked, her multifaceted eyes reflecting the lights of the ships. Helena shook her head. "Never. But I'm glad it did. We've all come so far." As they watched, a new ship moved into view. It was massive, covered in shimmering patterns that represented every species in the Alliance. Its name, written in a dozen languages, translated to New Dawn. "The first of our joint exploration vessels," Vexalia explained. "It will carry representatives from all our worlds to seek out new life and new civilizations." Helena smiled, feeling a sense of pride and hope she hadn't experienced in years. "That's how we honor them," she said softly. "Not just the children we lost, but everyone who suffered in the war. We build a future they would be proud of." As the New Dawn prepared for its maiden voyage, the assembled ships lit up in a dazzling display of lights. It was a reminder of how far they had come, and a beacon of hope for the future. The galaxy had been forged anew in the crucible of war and peace. And now, united, they turned their gaze to the vast, unexplored reaches of space, ready to write the next chapter in their shared history.